we've been going 70 years. We have touched an enormous amount of brands in that time, and I think we've sort of integrated popular culture so sufficiently that we're now in museums around the world with some of the work that we've done. Landor has a fascinating history. It's one of the reasons why I joined. It began 70 years ago on a boat in the Bay of San Francisco, founded by an unbelievably charismatic guy called Walter Landor. He's widely known to have really pioneered the notion of strategically led branding. It's not surprising that, we have moved to a new area of London. I mean, we are a pioneering kind of an agency, always have been. It also won't surprise me if lots of people follow. It's an incredibly vibrant part of the city, and I think it's only going to get more so.
So welcome to More London. The brief to ourselves was very, very simple. It was to create a digital moving card that simply communicated to our outside audience our new address and the simple fact that we're moving. Our simple idea was more, and luckily we managed to find an office that had that in the address as well, so that was quite lucky. The visual idea was to tease our employees about the environment and our new life next to the river, but also an internal benefit as well, so more desire, more energy, more life. Move day came upon us very quickly. So again, to maintain the idea, from a two-dimensional and online state, it needed to become three-dimensional. A yellow river device really welcomes you at reception. It's a big statement, it's a brand colour, it maintains that energy and life. And it really guides you, it acts as a spine through the whole piece and really welcomes you into the studio. And we've purposely designed many touch points going through the space, through the river, so be it an object, be it a tone of voice, be it stories along the river. So it acts as a constant source of energy and information. The river takes you all the way through the studio and ends up in arguably the best view in town, if you like.
Peter Knapp is our resident creative guru. He's an extraordinary character, I think, in the short time that I've worked with him, because although he's been at Landor for many years now, he absolutely leads the charge in innovation terms.
My first job was working for Dixon's in-house design studio, so learning about the hard school of retail and the high street, which was a great grounding because it really did bring together 2D and 3D disciplines into a commercial reality. And for me it was a great learning to never forget the end user. We're not doing this as self-indulgence, we're doing this for a commercial benefit and a commercial value. So I think it always taught me to really think of what the motivations of the customer are. It's not about decoration, it's about problem solving that you can bring aesthetic beauty to as a tool, but it isn't a self-indulgent moment. At that moment I think it becomes art, which is very different from the notion of branding and design.
Probably the work that I'm most excited about for this summer is the relaunch of Worthington's. Absolutely iconic brand, a national treasure. The work we've done on that is really beautiful because it absolutely taps into all that's good and true about that brand. And I think when you look at a piece of work and it's exciting and truthful, you've really achieved something.
Day one, we always sit down with the brief first. Basically, the idea for this one was celebrate the character within. And the way we structure our briefs is first with the kind of big idea, the insight here being that many of the leading beer brands lack depth and soul. And they're kind of more to do with the working men's humour and the kind of blunt aesthetics that you find in that environment. Whereas we feel that there was a space for a more consistent kind of accessible bitter that was as accessible as the market leaders, you know, the lagers. What was great about the strategy that came alongside this was talking to the brewers and going to Burton-on-Trent, talking to the people that really care about the brand, the people that are the brand, and the idea of character came from them as much as it did the flavour and the aroma of the beer itself. So we get as many people as we possibly can into the room initially, talk through the brief, and then there's a bit of a feedback session on the brief. Do we feel this is the right way to go? Everyone's involved at this stage. The brief isn't a one-way street. We get given the brief and then we talk amongst ourselves about it. As soon as we feel that brief's working, we go away and we do what's called a 24-hour crit, whereby we'll go away and we'll sketch, and we'll come back with newspaper clippings, magazine clippings, album covers, something we found off a blog, anything like that, kind of stimulus, as well as our, you know, obviously talking about our own ideas, sketches, things like that. So once we've done the 24-hour crit, we keep thinking of the brief, keep thinking of our ideas and take it a step further. We start to move on to Mac, start to Mac things up, sketch things up in more detail. Everything starts to become more and more focused. One of the big ideas, which came from one of our initial sketches here, they've always used the shield, the two shields actually, very well, but we want to talk a little bit more about this being an ale of character. So we were talking about the brewers themselves and the people that look after the brand. And very early on we started sketching signatures. Almost every single one of these ideas has a signature and a date and a location, so it's as much about locality and the people as anything else. Looking at the typography, making sure it has all of that character and all of that tradition, but maintains its focus. You know, we need to gain a new audience here. And then we move on to a look and feel and campaign idea, and it's nice when a brief comes full circle. So you can see right in the first day we had Celebrate the Character Within, and then moving on to the look and feel and the ad campaign, it's the core of the ad campaign, Celebrate the Character Within. And that is represented through a illustrative look and feel that we've developed to, you know, arc back and talk about tradition, but also be, you know, more future focused, more trying to get these mainstream drinkers to move over into bitter territory and ale territory. So hopefully they can, you know, enjoy the character of this ale.
I think at the heart of what we do, we're trying to identify the truth about a brand, and that is enduring and starts from within a company. So that part of our work, I think, is probably, you know, much the same as it was when Walter started on the boat. I think the way in which you take that truth and put it into people's lives is the bit that's changed. So I suppose, you know, our biggest innovation in the last 5 years, if you like, is, I think, you know, gone are the days where we hand over work in the form of brand guidelines. I think it's all about identifying what is the appropriate behavioural blueprint for that client at that time, because the behaviour of a brand can change, but what's core about the brand should remain the same.
Someone like Peter Saville has always been an absolute inspiration to me. I think, again, he's a great editor, great art director, great editor, great creative mind. I think someone I think he's got a real ability to just focus on something and see a very clever idea in something and not over-embellish. I've been lucky enough to work in the same studio as someone like Sir Terence Conran, who I think just had a real intuitive sense of style. So I think he's a creative director par excellence, no doubt, because he believes in himself and he believes in his intuition and has real certainty, and I think that's important. You want to work with people who have a strong vision but are open-minded. I think it's important to manage ego, but I also think it's important to let it off the leash as well, because sometimes those difficult minds are the ones that really do come up with extraordinary answers. So yes, the egos have to be managed, but you also need to allow them to flourish, and I think with that comes a certain amount of pain and tension sometimes, but I think you don't want a sterile circumstance. You want to have something where you do have arguments because people are passionate about things. So I welcome ego, actually, as long as ultimately it all ends up for the common good. I think it'd be a boring place if there wasn't ego, and I actually think everyone in a creative studio should have an ego. I'd like the receptionist to have an ego. I'd like the MD to have an ego. I'd like all the people to have that, because if not, I think they're in the wrong job, frankly.
Naked Lunch is something that leverages one of our very own tools, the Brand Driver platform, which we use to dig a little bit deeper when we're getting to know a client for the first time. So typically when you start a project, you would start off with a Brand Driver platform, and you work with the client to figure out what kind of car they might be or what kind of drink, but it's to get into the nitty-gritty parts of the brand that you might not get through ordinary things like stakeholder interviews and online research. One of the great things about Landor is that there's a big diverse audience here, but sometimes you just don't get to know each other very well, whether it's in the kitchen or at your desks. And so we thought, why not kind of put our own tools to use and do the Brand Driver platform on ourselves.
So we get to know that people might be half Japanese, that they might play the cello, that they're a train spotter, and I think it just makes for better working relationships, honestly, if you know people better.
It's actually quite a funny process. I wouldn't quite call it an initiation, but you never know kind of when it's going to happen. Peter Knapp could come to you at any time and kind of whisper, "So do you want to get naked?" And it's the only answer is yes, right?
It also gives people a chance to present to probably the worst audience that they'll ever have to present to, the internal audience, because if you can get through that, then really there's no presentation that you should be in fear of afterwards.
This one you might recognize as Beaker from the Muppets. Fun night at a party, some friends and I were kind of sitting around and thinking, which one of the Muppets would we be if we had to choose? Really, really deep conversation. And I chose Beaker because Beaker is, if you look at him, really perseverant. I mean, he's always kind of, no matter what that doctor does to him, he comes back and keeps helping him. And I'd like to think I'm the same way.
Because it is a family here. So everyone wants those presentations to go well, everyone wants them to succeed. It's a real love-in moment, really, but they definitely form part of our culture.
We have an incredibly eclectic, enthusiastic, passionate group of people.
This is a place where there's a lot of opportunity, and if you want to eventually work abroad, if you want to work in different segments of the marketplace, you can. If you want to learn different skills, you can. So I think we look for people who would be part of the family, but also are personally and intellectually restless, that they want to kind of push on, that they're not just happy to sit at their desk and work on one type of project and have one type of skill set.
The thing that surprised me about working here is the way I've been made to feel very included and part of the team, as well as the usual kind of reception concierge duties like booking couriers and booking flights and calling clients. I've also been asked to work on some projects like researching pitches and coming up with ideas with the rest of the team here, which has been really good for me.
So second day here, really looking forward to challenges ahead, especially because I've come on board as a creative director for digital. Landors, are known as a branding agency and possibly get pigeonholed for being a branding agency. So hopefully what I'm going to bring is my sort of knowledge, 16 years of experience from digital, and hopefully integrate that into the company and make them a success in the digital industry as well.
I'd have to say my favourite part of the week working at Landor would probably be our Friday get-togethers, because it's just a really nice way to kind of feel part of the whole team. And obviously you get nice free drinks, which is always fun. But no, it's a really good way to meet people and have a good time together as a team. Welcome to Friday Drinks. Like I said, my favourite part of the week. We've got people and cake and Pims.
I'm a rather tragic brand fanatic, obsessed with all things brand related. And I think in the many years I've been working with brands, I think there hasn't been a more exciting time. I think the possibilities now to present yourself and engage with your brand fans, I think, never been a more exciting time.
Are awards important to us? Yes they are, and it's also a particular challenge for us because typically the type of work that we get is for large corporate companies, and that I think we come up with some very, very creative solutions for them. They're not always the types of projects though which are celebrated at award shows, but nonetheless that's our challenge. And in fact, to that point, our chairman has kindly donated us this pink fluffy bunny because his ambition for us is that we get a golden lion at Cannes and get it as soon as possible. And in fact, we can't actually get rid of the bunny until we trade it in for a golden lion. So Awards are important to us, especially if we want to get rid of this bloody thing.